years, America has changed from an agricultural country to an industrial society. As a consequence of the increased food production due to improved industrialization and technology, America faces a huge rise in obesity rates. Obesity is an increasing chronic disease in America, costing up to $1 billion per year behind treatment and medicine. The rising obesity in the United States of America has been caused by change in food production, quantity over quality. Genetically modified foods contain more preservatives that are changing the way certain enzymes and body parts function in the human body. GMOs have also resulted in other foodborne illnesses. GMOs have manipulated the products that constitute our food today. Cold drinks and chewing gum contain aspartame, the feces of E. coli bacteria, which can result in seizures and brain tumors upon consumption. Meat products contain hormonal growth-increasing chemicals. Many chicken products, for example, are sprayed with the virus to eliminate the bacteria living inside the chicken. Genetically modified corn contains chemicals that are harmful to newborn babies and women. Cornstarch and corn oil from genetically modified corn are present in almost everything we consume today, but cornstarch has been shown to contain fatal amounts of metal, like mercury. Most GMOs have been proven to increase chances of getting cancer or other life-threatening illnesses, like organ failure and seizures. All of these additives and genetically modified ingredients are a consequence of the industrialization of food production in America, which favors cheap, highly processed food over wholesome ingredients. This industrialization has not only increased obesity, but also rare illnesses around the globe. The debate over what causes obesity has been long and raging, which proves that it is hard to identify one ingredient, one food, or one lifestyle change as the ultimate culprit. However, it is unavoidable to face the truth that obesity comes as a direct consequence of one looming process in our American food system: industrialized agriculture.
Rocky, a 10th grader at Edward R. Morrow High School in Brooklyn, struggles with being obese. Rocky, who is 6'1" and weighs 393 pounds, accepts that he's overweight. However, he's also trying to reverse the situation. Rocky's problem is similar to the problems faced by many American children. Data from National Health and Nutrition Examination surveys show that the prevalence of obesity in teens has increased. Obesity of teens from 12 to 19 years of age have increased from 5% to 17.6%. The prevalence of obesity in 2 to 4-year-olds have increased from 12.4% in 1998 to 14.5% in 2003, but has only increased to 14.6% in 2008. The CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, defined overweight as a person who is between the 85th to 95th percentile. Obesity is defined as anyone who is in or above the 95th percentile. One study found that 80% of these children who were overweight at the age 10 to 15 years were also obese adults after the age of 25. The leading factors of obesity are lack of physical activity, sedentary behavior, and eating habits. School participation in physical activity has dropped from 42% in 1991 to 28% in 2003. In addition to that, only 28% of high school students meet the recommended levels of physical activity. Dr. Samreen Azim is a family practitioner in Holly Springs, North Carolina, and is here today with us to discuss the issue at hand and its impact on the average teenager.
Hi, this is Dr. Samreen Azim. I'm a primary care physician and I practice in Holly Springs. I've been practicing for 10 years. Obesity has kind of snuck up on us in the past couple of years, but we really have not been very diligent in talking with our children about obesity until now that it's become an epidemic, really. So it's hard for children when they don't have healthy habits in their younger ages, and then they get to be teenagers or college-going students, and then they realize that, wait a second, I was supposed to be eating better. So that's also a huge disconnect, because then it's harder for them, because they are set in their ways, and it's harder for them, and I do realize that very often, for them to revamp their thinking, consider obesity as basically an unhealthy lifestyle, if I would call it a disease as well, and then change their lifestyle to become able to lose weight basically by eating better and exercising. The next question is if I have seen a rise in obesity in my clients or in public in general. And the short answer to that is that Definitely, yes. I have seen a rise in obesity. Actually, I would say as young as maybe 7, 8 years. And also, these are the type of families that you will see them to be obese in their 20s and 30s. So I would say definitely I have seen a rise. Although I have also noticed that much older kids, maybe in their 20s and 30s, have started to realize that this is something that they don't want to be. Basically, maybe because of fashion or the looks. That I've seen a rise in children, but also that some general awareness is slowly coming in, and that's important and good for me to see, because then it opens up the doors for me to talk to them about it. I would say the main danger is early diabetes. That's been steadily seen over the past several years. The mean age for diabetes used to be in 50s and 60s, which we used to call as later in life. Now we see diabetes as early as in 30s and even late 20s. Because of obesity, the insulin resistance increases basically, and which eventually leads to diabetes. I would say that in itself leads to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cardiovascular risk factors increases. So most people are more prone to getting side effects from being obese in their 50s to 60s. In order to help prevent obesity, I think make people become aware of obesity is the most important factor, in my opinion, because if parents are more aware of it, of course, they will then realize why it is important for them to take time in their busy life schedule to help with their children eat better, have healthier lifestyle. And if they are more aware, naturally they'll explain to their children the reasons of obesity and its harmful effects later in their lives. So children will be raised being more aware of it, and will be more apt to follow healthy lifestyle, eating habits, and playing outdoors rather than being indoors.
Today, all food is made through a complex system of supply chains. Food is grown or raised on farms, ranches, or fisheries as plants or organisms, then passed through the stages of processing and distribution in order to be converted into and transported as products recognizable on any supermarket. Today, all food is made through a complex system of supply chains. Food is grown or raised on farms, ranches, or fisheries as plants or organisms, then passed through the stages of processing and distribution as products recognizable on any supermarket shelf. Due to their different uses and demands, food items experience a variety of routes to their respective destinations. Subsequently, they are prepared in restaurants and cafeterias or sold by retailers and prepared in home environments. The food supply chain can be illustrated with corn, for instance. Corn comes into the world as a crop planted on farms in Midwestern states, from seeds advertised to be adaptable hybrids with solid agronomics. As crops are grown and harvested, they are mixed together, no matter what type of corn they may be, and are sent to processing areas, Chicago markets, then all around the world. The majority of corn arrives at American factory farms to feed cows and other food animals. The drawback of this stage is that animals are naturally disposed to eat forage, so living on feedlots and on corn diet is bad for them. The corn that does not pass through animals' journeys to wet milling plants, where it is transformed into the basic materials and huge companies use to make processing foods. In these plants, corn is separated into botanical then chemical parts, soaked and ground. Corn can be sent to markets and restaurants as a vegetable itself, a processed product, or absorbed in animal meat. Consumers then digest it in one of these forms as a restaurant meal or as store-bought prepared at-home dish. Corn acts as a source of cheap energy in the supermarket due to the amount of fats and sugars that are added to it. Another way to explore how food is made is through pork. A piglet starts out his days on a pig breeding farm, and after a short while moves to a hog farm, probably in Oklahoma, North Carolina, or Texas. Hog farms are operated by contracted farmers who raise hogs by instructions given by a company. The piglet lives with other hogs in a long, low metal building in the corner of a large field. At 6 months old, he is sent to a processing plant owned by some corporation in the Oklahoma Panhandle to be slaughtered and turned into a variety of food products, including sausage, bacon, and ham. These products are then refrigerated and carefully transported by truck to stores and restaurants all over the country. From then on, the food is either prepared by a chef or served to diners, or bought, prepared, and ingested by consumers themselves. Although this process seems fairly simple, there are hidden dangers in every step. Food products are constantly vulnerable to mishandling and contamination, which can occur at any step. For example, fields irrigated with contaminated water on farms are likely to produce contaminated crops. Refrigerated food left out too long in warm weather when loaded into trucks can reach temperatures inducing a rapid growth of bacteria. Furthermore, contaminated and mishandled foods are subject to rapidly growing pathogens and toxins and could cause foodborne illnesses. Commercial exposure to unhealthy processed foods attracts children to purchasing these food items. Starting from television programs to computer ads advertising fast food, snacks, and cereal dominate the rare publicization of food items. Authors say that is the primary reason, aside from marketing, as to why children are being fed like this. Authors say that the availability of junk food and vending machines are common throughout all schools in America. Many American families are forced into buying unhealthy industrialized foods for their children because of money restraints from jobs. Because of these unhealthy food habits, teens and children are forced to eat foods that affect their condition.
As described, this situation is monumental in size, and being able to solve the issue requires participation from the federal level all the way down to the individual. One of the biggest supporting arguments for industrialized agriculture that families pose is that cheap, unhealthy food is all they can afford. For example, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average cost for a dozen eggs in U.S. cities was $2.66 this year, but my local farmer's market sells them for $5. This higher cost inhibits many people from eating healthy because industrialized food producers do not include environmental costs in their pricing. Industrialized food will suffer in the long term by failing to be sustainable, but in the meantime, local food chains are stepping up their game to win over consumers on a budget. As of 2014, 3/4 of farmers markets had at least one vendor that accepted forms of federal aid such as food stamps or women, infants, and children funding, which helps make these food sources more viable for lower middle class and working class Americans. Farmers markets are an up-and-coming trend for the healthful eater, and they are rising to the occasion to feed our country's citizens with healthful, local, and non-processed food. To prove this point, the USDA Agricultural Marketing Service Administrator Ann Alonso quoted in 2014, "There are over 8,400 farmers markets in USDA's National Farmers Market Directory, and this survey shows that they are thriving and expanding as they provide healthy, local fresh fruit and vegetables to America's families." The survey she mentions was conducted in 2014 about the presence of farmers markets in communities and returned some exciting results. For example, 64. The second and most important solution focuses on connecting children and teenagers directly with healthy food. Farm-to-school programs are increasing in number and help reduce obesity by providing teenagers with easy access to healthy, local foods. They also benefit the local farming industry and create a higher demand for locally produced foods. This is done through the USDA Farm-to-School Grant Program, which provides funding to local farms in order for them to sell their food to schools. The Farm-to-School Act of 2015 works in tandem with the grant program and was introduced to Congress this year. Under the Act, the funding for the grant program was increased from $5 million a year to $15 million a year and expands the range of schools able to request funding. The success of this program creates a viable and important link from the children and teenagers of America to local, wholesome food. The most important factor I have to stress in this issue is that local food versus industrialized food is not a David and Goliath battle, but rather that the consumer has the most important voice in this issue. Every food purchase you make is a vote, industrialized or decentralized agriculture, farm or factory. Thank you.
D&O Musical Productions.